Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, the as unnamed football podcast at time of recording, unnamed. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you're clicking that subscribe button, you can check out our little competition at the end of the podcast for who gets to name the podcast. Could be you. Like I say, if you're subscribing, you're awesome. Whether it's audio or video, we still love you. And this week on the football podcast, we've got a full complement of all of our lovely football podcast people. Anyway, let's get into it. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, lady. Recording is in progress, and for you lovely YouTube viewers, you'll see some familiar faces, some less familiar faces from last week's episode. But I'm going to hand over to the man in charge, Mr. Paul Williams, and he's going to take it away for us. Paul?
Good evening, /morning, /afternoon, whenever you're listening to this particular episode. Yes, welcome along to the first of the regular season football podcast, as yet still untitled football podcast. No, we're not calling it that.
Yeah, we are.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are.
We're definitely not.
I'm going to get a vote going on the Twitter.
Oh my God! There you go. So there's the first that's the first piece of business. Andy, using the CookieCast Twitter stream, will obviously put up a poll with the available new names for the podcast for this coming season.
Matthew, I believe you'd offered one up.
I can't remember. There was. It was that good.
It was memorable, that's for sure.
There's one. If we're not discussing one of them, then we're not discussing this one as well. And then just Google Gazza and Vinnie Jones, and then we'll go from there.
If that's not a perfect hook to get on to the next section, then I don't know what it is. But yeah, obviously, following on from last week's season preview podcast, we did some predictions for the opening games of the season for Hull, Middlesbrough, and Nottingham Forest. So we will come to those very shortly. But first of all, as a slight change to last year's format, we were going to drop the This Week in Football section. And then someone reminded us that arguably the greatest player in the world has moved clubs, and not for a transfer fee.
That doesn't sound right to me.
So it probably warrants a little bit of a chat about it, I would say. So yes, and for anyone who's been living in a cave for the last week or so, obviously it's come out that Barcelona are incredibly in the red, I suppose would be the best way to say it, for their finances, and they can no longer afford to keep again, arguably the world's best player, even on a 50% reduced wage. So he has left the club. So Lionel Messi is no longer a Barcelona player. He was a free agent for all of about 4 days, something like that. And he's now signed with Paris Saint-Germain, much to everyone's surprise, I dare say.
Does that not seem like a long time to be a free agent for someone like that?
I think that was the official time. I think I would suggest that was probably organised before it ever expired. His original deal ever expired.
Yeah, at no point will he have ever not had a contract, officially and stuff like that. I don't know now if this is true or if this is just to be his rumoured wages, but I saw something that put his wage at around £53 million per year.
Oh, I'd seen something very different to that. Because I'd seen a £25 million signing on fee and then £25 million a year. So that's a huge difference.
Well, the one that I'd seen said that it was rumoured that all of his stuff added together took him to £53 million for the year. So
they're big on shirt sales, aren't they, and naming rights. And I would suggest that Paris Saint-Germain have given him to kind of, I don't know how it circumnavigates kind of financial fair play and all that kind of stuff, but if they're like saying, well, if we sell 100 million Messi shirts, then, you get a chunk of that and that'll filter into your wages, and whether that kind of is a little kind of sneaky financial fair play kind of thing. It is. I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling when you kind of. It's a level of greed that you see in football as well, because obviously Barcelona, and they've handed out the contract, so it's a bit like I can't remember who it was who wouldn't take a pay cut. Was it Özil wouldn't take a pay cut a while back?
Arsenal.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. But he wouldn't leave. One of the reasons that he wouldn't leave was because he would have to take a pay cut to go somewhere else. But obviously Barcelona had gone kind of cap in hand to the players and said, would you be willing to take a pay cut to kind of help the club out and help us keep Messi? And it looks like Piqué was the only player that agreed to said kind of pay cut. And you just think, but, for a club that, I go into, when I'm in school teaching, all the kids have got Messi shirts, so they've got all that revenue coming in. Like, where's all the money going? Because it's like Man United saying that they can't afford to pay, name a player on their squad. It's the same as like Man City or something like that, saying we can't afford to pay this player anymore and having to let them go on a free. But it's even more significant than that, because the guy's been there 20 years and didn't want to leave.
Yeah. It is baffling. I mean, like, you've said it in, like, conversations we've had just randomly chatting about football. It's like, how have the sort of the bean counters let it get so bad where they're having to, like, voluntarily ask players to, like, halve their contracts or, take a 40% cut and stuff like that. I mean, this is the club that was looked at for years and lauded as, like, the best run club in the world and stuff like that. They had the best academy. They were always bringing players through the academy and stuff like that. They were, I mean, up until 15 years ago, they never had a sponsor on the front of the shirt. And for the first, I think it was 4 or 5 seasons, it was always, it started off with UNICEF. So It wasn't even a sponsor that they had on the front of the shirt. It was a charity. And they agreed to put them on the front of their shirt as obviously a gesture of goodwill. Now, obviously, that's gone on the wayside because they were sponsored by Qatar Airways for a little bit. So I imagine there was absolutely no money in that at all. Just
that well-known charitable organisation.
No, those famously charitable Qatari folk. Yeah, but it's obviously something is drastically wrong at that club, and you just worry that obviously it'd be unfathomable for a club of Barcelona's size to go bankrupt and go out of business, but.
Surely, though, that they are like almost like the Man United of their division, and like they've got to make enough in shirt sales and all the rest of it just on reputational value. Surely,
I think you'd always say that Real Madrid will take that particular slot in Spain just because of like the Galacticos thing and the fact that they are like a worldwide brand. So I'm not saying that Barcelona aren't, but I'd say of the two,
it's obviously complicated by regional politics, shall we say? Obviously the Catalan and this kind of Spanish side of things. There's been a long. If you listen to any kind of any Barcelona or Bilbao kind of thing, they'll say that Real Madrid gets handouts from the government and stuff like that to help kind of keep them afloat and stuff like that. And I think it's a very kind of complicated kind of thing, and Barcelona want to keep up and keep beating Real Madrid because it's like a Basque pride kind of thing. It's kind of maintaining your kind of top of the tree type of thing in the league. But it's shocking, really. It's just mind-boggling how a club that's, it's 100,000 seat stadium plus. It's well known.
Close to it, yeah.
You just think they've just been run into the ground by. I can't. It's the kind of opposite side of the supporters trust owning a club kind of thing. It's kind of, everyone talks about how well it works in Germany and stuff like that, and I know that there's more clubs doing that in this country as clubs become available. But then you have the Barcelona side of things. It's supporter run, and you're like, well, Christ Almighty, they've picked some absolute duds of a supporter there to run the club. But it's just an arm. I think the problem with Spain is, I think it's the same in this country as well. We've seen it with all the top clubs in the Premier League. It's an arms race to get the best players, and sometimes it's not only just buying the best players for your team; it's to keep those players away from the other team as well. And it's been an embarrassment of riches, when you kind of look at some of the players that are either set to leave or set to go out of contract, and it's like, Griezmann, I don't know whether Coutinho's run out of contract or is still on a contract, and
he's still there. I think that's, for me, that's what it boils down to most, is just the sheer terrible business they've done for like transfers and stuff like that. So obviously when they signed Luis Suarez from Liverpool, I think they paid about 65 million for him, something like that. Obviously was a great player for him, scored an absolute shed load of goals. I think he's only behind Messi in terms of goals scored for that club. Got to the point where they didn't want him at the club anymore because his wage was deemed too much of a burden, so they just basically gave him to Atletico Madrid. So they didn't even recoup, or if they did, it was maybe €5 million or something like that. So they've basically just lost an absolute fortune on him. And if you factor in his wages as well, that's probably €100 million loss in total. And it's absolutely astronomical. It's just crazy that you can let a player go of that caliber of talent for such a woefully small money. Coutinho's a perfect example as well. I think they signed him for over 100 million, and they're apparently willing to take offers of 35, as little as 35 million, to get him off the wage bill and stuff like that. But some of the players they've signed it's just crazy. So they sold Neymar for nearly 200 million, which was the world record fee, and then they bought Ousmane Dembele for over 100 million. They bought Coutinho for over 100 million. Griezmann was a large transfer fee. They've just overpaid for players that are just the wrong age. Basically, they're not buying young players that they can get a lot of like a 10-year spell out of. I think Griezmann, when he went, was like 27 or something like that, and it's not like a feasible thing because obviously they're not going to have a huge resale value. So as a business model, it's just appallingly bad. And obviously the old president has got an awful lot to answer for, really, because some of his transfer dealings were shocking, blitzed, and Yeah, you just don't know what to say, to be honest. It's just a very, very strange situation.
But as a business model, is it not just completely... You can't keep this up. When you're talking above 100 million for a player, how are clubs ever going to be able to keep that up without ending in a position where they're like, we can't afford to pay this one person this astronomical amount of money that they can't possibly need that money. Like you're saying, like, this club's asked all of their players to take a pay cut, and one of them's like, yeah, I'll take a pay cut, and all the rest of them are like, no, I need that money.
I get that, and I think it sort of boils down to that thing of, yes, those players don't need that money and stuff like that, but it's not their fault that Barcelona don't have the money to pay them the wage that they agreed to when they signed the contract that they were offered. So, whilst we'd like to sort of think that there's like nobility in players and things like that, that they would have the sort of wherewithal to say, I'll happily take a pay cut, etc., etc. It's not, that's unfortunately not the way the world works, is it? And stuff like that.
But also as well, I think if you were relying on players to take a pay cut, it'd be those that were sufficiently through their career enough to be able to afford to take that pay cut. Whereas, like as you've just mentioned, like if they've invested in the old guard, they could be those guys, but actually they might also be of the opinion, well, I haven't got that long left, so I need to recoup as much as I can, kind of thing.
It does also help that the person who offered to take a pay cut isn't married to Shakira, and it's probably like a Tom Brady Giselle situation where his money's the pocket money kind of thing. So he could
Would that be Shakira?
As in hips don't like Shakira.
To say that Gerard Piqué is punching would be the understatement of the century.
I feel we might have slightly veered off the old football topic at this point.
Yeah, but as Matt said, the hips don't lie, so I think we'll have to let this one slide, to be fair.
As Matt also mentioned before, though, about... I think it was Paul that mentioned Neymar actually saying that. Can we just take a minute to not only talk about the transfer that has gone through, but also the fact that Pochettino, still in charge of Paris Saint-Germain, is clearly the guy that's playing FIFA and has all the money to buy the Ultimate Team cards at this point in time. What the fuck, man? Like that is that team that they have now. It's incredible, and yes, some of them are quite old. Yes, it's probably not going to be a team that's going to last sort of 4 or 5 seasons or whatever. But look at their signings that they've brought in now. So obviously, yes, Messi is the one that we've talked about, and yes, he's linking up with Neymar and Mbappe. But they've also signed Donnarumma, the guy who was like, was he joint Golden Glove for the Euros as well? So he was. He was up there.
I think he was voted as player of the tournament.
And again, not age not being on his side, but Sergio Ramos on a free as well.
Well, someone covered it. I think PSG have signed 5 players this summer. They've paid a transfer fee for one of them, and they've arguably got like the best or like one of the top 5 in every position that they've signed, arguably. So obviously Donnarumma, arguably one of the best 5 keepers in the world. Sergio Ramos, without a doubt, is one of the best central defenders in the world. Messi, arguably the best player ever. So the only person that paid a transfer fee for is Ashraf Hakimi, who they got from Inter Milan, I think, and they paid 50 million for him. They signed someone else as well. I can't think who it is. It'll come to me later on. But yeah, they're very much in the sort of, to borrow a phrase from the American football fraternity, they're in the win now phase of the sort of cycle, I suppose. It's that thing where there'll be odds-on favourites to win absolutely everything this season. So they'll definitely win Ligue 1. They'll probably win the French Cup. They'll be 2-1 favourites to win the Champions League. It's that sort of thing, and like in a strange way, like the person who probably loses out most from Messi going to PSG is probably Neymar, because the whole point of why he left Barcelona in the first place was because he was sick of being in Messi's shadow and thought he wouldn't win a Ballon d'Or if he was still playing the same team as Messi. So who knows?
They're at that point though where if they don't win the Champions League, then Pochettino will not only be fired, but probably fired in a rocket to some far off planet, because if he can't win with that team, job's knackered really.
Like I say, it's a classic sort of if they don't win it now, will they ever win it sort of thing. But yeah, so strange times. Shall we refocus it and talk about some Hull, Middlesbrough, and Nottingham Forest action?
Some actual football, what do you mean?
Big spenders.
Andrew, do you want to open up that little book of yours? And
the book is open. I was updating up to time of recording. I think I literally wrote the last score and then pressed the record button. So it doesn't get much hotter off the press. It doesn't get much fresher than this. 6 games total were predicted last week. 6 games to predict this week. So yes, let's get cracking. First game of the season to predict was Preston North End versus that man there's team, Hull City. Now, Hull City have just been promoted. Did they have something to prove, or were they just going to coast for now, just settle in? Let's find out by saying, Stu, what was the score in that game?
It was Preston North End 1, Hull City just the 4.
4 goals. Hull City wanted it to be known that they were here. To save me the embarrassment, do you know who scored those goals?
I do, yes.
And so, can you pronounce them?
To be decided. Preston went 1-0 up with either Jakobsen or Jacobsen, depending on how where your cookie crumbles on that one. So I am already aware that some of the podcast members will be happier than others with the Hull City goal scorers. So we have a Keane Lewis Potter, a Smallwood, a McGuinness, and a Cannon goal for Hull City. So not only 4 goals, but 4 different goal scorers as well. So plenty of points to be had, but obviously you'll tell us where they lie.
Yeah, there was points. A smattering of points. Mr. Williams managed to just pick up 1 point from a 1-0 prediction. He also then went on to pick up another point for picking Lewis Potter as one of the goal scorers. Stu, no, you went for a draw, which I'm sure at some point in time you were absolutely bang on for, but unfortunately no. Also no goal scorers. I think you, like I, literally went for one of the only people who didn't score. Matt followed in your footsteps, however, did manage to pick up McGuinness as a goal scorer for Hull. So a 1-1 doesn't get any points there, I'm afraid, but it does get 1 point for a goal scorer. I managed to snaffle a point by picking Hull to win. Don't know if anybody picked up on my method of the start of the season, which was to give all of the home teams a 1-0 victory, just and see where we got to. So putting down 1-0 for Hull to win did get me a point, but like you, Stu, apparently I could only pick the one person who didn't score a goal. That brings us swiftly to Middlesbrough football. Fulham took on the mighty Borough. Plenty of predicted goals to go at. Paul Williams, what was the final score in this game?
Final score, Andrew, was Fulham 1, Middlesbrough FC 1.
Correct, a mundo. Goal scorers?
So there was a debut goal for new Fulham signing Harry Wilson. The equaliser was scored by Mark Bowler.
You are correct, sir. Now then, here's where it gets interesting, because Paul, you correctly predicted a 1-1 draw. 2 points for you, sir. Didn't then go on to pick up any goal scorers, so that's where your points end. Stu went for a 2-0 Fulham win, and rounded that out nicely by picking no correct goal scorers. Matt, I mean, you know, it's probably a good job this was done over the old Zoom, because I think fist would have been flying if it was in person. A 3-0 Fulham thumping. No points there, but a correct prediction of Wilson to score gives Matt 1 point. My faith in the mighty Borough let me down, unfortunately, and I did not pick the correct Middlesbrough goal scorer, bringing my grand total to a big fat 0. Swiftly moving on to Coventry City versus Nottingham Forest. Matt, are you aware of the score in this game?
I'm fully aware.
Fully
aware.
Do you want to lay it on us?
A 2-1 Coventry win.
It was a 2-1 Coventry win. Are you in the in the market for pronouncing the goal scorers correctly?
I can butcher the first Coventry score if you want.
Please do. Saves me absolutely butchering it.
Well, we'll go through it. So Forest scored first through Lyle Taylor, which is a nice kind of finish. And then I'm going to go Gioqueres, possibly. Got the equaliser. With quite a nice finish. And then Forest proceeded to chuck away any points, possibly, in the 96th minute with McFadden. With the keeper, the Forest keeper didn't get sent to Coventry; he just got left there with the shocking keeping for the second goal.
So
my pessimism was rewarded grandly with the final 10-15 minutes of that match.
What's nice here is of a possible 2 or 3 goals, a possible 2 or 3 goal scorers, and all of the people predicting, you guessed it, absolute bagels all round. Paul went for a 1-0 Forest win. Stu followed suit, and so did I. Matt went for a 1-1. And of the 5 different goal scorers picked, not a 1. So, grand total in no particular order. Unfortunately, in no particular order gives you this week's winner, with Paul scoring a total of 4 points for the week. Stu, not a man that likes points, 0.
Overrated.
Points are overrated, Stu. I agree. Matt, a point from each game to be on 2. And just the 1 point for me. Because, I agree with Stu. Points are overrated. What that does is it brings us to some cup action. Points are not overrated in the cup, though. Just so we're all on the same page. It's very it's a very different story when you talk about the cup. Points are important.
I disagree.
Well, Hull City took on Wigan Athletic. Now then, Stu, how did that game work out for the Hull City boys?
So, the story of my night of following that game was, balls. Oh, okay, we're equal. Oh, it's a penalty shootout. Oh, man, what? So, if the full time finished 1-1, there was 4 minutes between the goals, and apparently nothing for the other 86 minutes of that game. So the Wigan goal was scored by Humphreys, and the Hull City goal was again scored by Keane Lewis Potter. I'm assuming just whilst we're at this juncture, cup goals don't count for season top scorers, do they? Good. That's what I was hoping.
So, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to have to be, unfortunately. 3 people picked a 1-0 victory to Hull. Myself, Matt and Paul were those 3. Stu had more faith in his team and went with a 2-0 victory to Hull. Nobody picked the correct goal scorer apart from this guy, and that's just the 1 point taken out of that entire game. Moving on, so we don't dwell on it.
Can I say one more thing, actually?
So
it's a shame penalties don't count, because nearly every bastard scored in that point. 14 straight penalties were scored, and I was following it on my phone, granted, because as the YouTube viewers can see, I'm not in my usual location. And as soon as we missed the 15th one, I was like, yeah, that's it, done. So yeah, it took 16 penalties to settle that game in the end. 14 of them scored in a row.
Indeed. Going on to a game that finished moments before pressing record on this podcast. Blackpool took on the oh so mighty Borough. Paul? Anything from you, sir?
Well, obviously, it's been deemed that don't go concentrating on the cups this season, lads. Just get yourself focused on that league. So they thought it would be best to get what can only be described as a pummeling. Yes, unfortunately, it finished Blackpool 3, Middlesbrough 0. Bloomfield Road proving to not be a very happy hunting ground once again for Middlesbrough, sadly.
Are you aware of the goal scorers?
I've got them right here for you, Andrew.
Beautiful.
We have a goal apiece for Callum Connolly.
Correct.
Shane Lavery.
Indeed.
And Keshi Anderson. Those last two coming within 1 minute of each other.
One of those, it's going to come as no surprise at this point in time. We are not doing all that well in predicting goal scorers. And as a overall prediction, Matthew, you, sir, are the only point taker. You predicted that Blackpool would win this game 2-1. Close. Does get you a point. Everybody else was in the Middlesbrough camp. 2-1s from both Paul and Stu, and I just had a little 1-0. But not a single goal scorer picked. So just the 1 point in that game. It's fine though, because Nottingham Forest are going to be a points fest for these guys, because they took on Bradford City. Matt, are you aware of how this game ended moments before recording?
I am. 2-1 win for the Mighty Reds, Nottingham Forest. We got two goals from Yao Cavallo. I think he's our record signing, 13 million, who spent last season out on loan. And then, obviously, you were putting in an appearance for Bradford today because Cook scored their goal.
That's why we had to start a little bit later. I had to get back from the game after just slamming one in the back of the net.
You just showered, haven't you? And you're doing it from the media room. The media room at the City Ground. This
is where we are. I get a discount in the cafe because of my press pass. So, of all the games up to this point, fairly low scoring, but I'm happy to tell you everybody got points in this game because everybody predicted a Forest win. 2-0, 3-0, 2-1 and a 1-0 gets a 1, a 1 and a 1, but for the fan himself, takes 4 points. Correct prediction there, Matt. Again, we do fall into the category of can't pick a goal scorer to save our lives. So, like I say, a 1 point, 1 point, a 2 and a 1. Total for the week. I was close. Paul and Stu, point apiece. I got 2 points. Just goes to show it can't be that difficult. Matthew wins the second half of the week with 3. But that's in the past. The history book has closed on that there week. The week that was the starting week of the season. All we do now is look forward to the future. And what the future holds for us is Hull City versus QPR. Stu, it's your team, so you will go last. I've had my time with the book and I've put my predictions in. I'm feeling good about it this week. Feeling good. So, Paul or Matt, would you like to take it, or would you like me to tell you what the score's going to be?
I'm quite intrigued to hear what you have to say on this one.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine. Let's see how this works. Okay, so I've gone with a 2-0 win for Hull City. I've got McGuinness and Lewis Potter to score those goals. Matt.
I've gone 1 each.
1 apiece. Scorers.
McGuinness, as I am reliably informed by Mr. Woodmansey, I checked with the man himself to check my pronunciations. And Charlie Austin for the QPR goal. I presume it's Charlie Austin anyway.
Paul.
Certainly is. Sorry, Mr. Woodmansey. I have this down as a 2-0 QPR win, please.
Ooh. Said it to his face. Wow.
Not even a goal for being in the virtual room.
I haven't even given him a goal because he's not in the room.
We're not physically
see him
in the room.
Yeah, but Paul, I know where you live.
Oh, I know.
And?
I'm a very long way away from there right now, so you predict away, young man. You predict away.
Who's scoring those goals then?
I will go for 1 apiece from Charlie Austin and Lyndon Dykes. Please.
Okay, so for the Hull City supporter, Stu, what have you got?
I've gone marginally optimistic much more optimistic than Mr. Williams. Not quite as optimistic as Mr. Moore. I've just gone the 1-0 Hull win with a Malik Wilkes goal.
There is nothing wrong with a 1-0 win. Nothing wrong with that. Speaking of 1-0, Middlesbrough take on my boys, the Bristol City guys. Paul, you will pick last. And Stu's just gone, so Matt, you're up again, I'm afraid.
I'm going to get myself barred from the podcast because I've forgotten that you were a Bristol City fan. So I've gone 2-0 for the Borough.
It's fine, I'll let you off. Who are going to score them their goals?
Watmore and McNair.
Just before Stu jumps in, I don't want to say I'm not prepared to give my score as and when required. 1-0 to the Borough. And a name, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there now, a name we're going to hear a lot coming out of this mouth this season. Amiobi. Stu.
Oh, he's not fit. Not fit.
It's fine. He'll be playing. It's fine. It's fine.
He won't be.
It's fine.
I mean,
then it's Watmore.
That's probably better.
Watmore in brackets. Stu.
Well, I don't know. I feel a bit aggrieved now, seeing as he binned off my team a minute ago. But I have gone for a Borough 2-1 win.
2-1, love it.
And I have also gone for a Watmore, not in brackets this time.
Not in brackets.
And stick me down for the second goal for Ik Piazzu, seeing as he needs to start pulling his finger out this early to get me that top scorer. So
absolutely. Bristol City's goal will be scored by
Wyman.
Wyman. Paul, lay it on us.
Bristol City are a bit of a bogey side. They've struggled against them at home in the last couple of seasons. But ever the optimist. I'll go for us to sneak a 1-0 win.
Goal scorer?
I'm going to go for Martin Payero.
The man who orders his beans and his dessert at the same time. Payero.
Exactly. But he is the gentleman I discussed at the end of the transfer business section last week. He was the one who, to all intents and purposes, it sounded like the transfer had been sorted. They just hadn't announced it. I think they announced it on Friday. So,
was that the guy who got where Fulham got London priced?
No, that guy's transfer is still up in the air as to who he's going to go to. So now this was the Argentinian
Still up in the air.
Say again.
I love still up in the air.
Always a bonus.
So the final game for the first half of the week is Nottingham Forest taking on AFC Bournemouth. So, Matt, you can pick last. I'm just going in. I'm going in straight away. It's a 1-0 Forest win with Taylor to score. Stu.
Again, feeling even more aggrieved, seeing as Matt didn't do me dirty on the predictions, but Paul did. I have got down for a 2-0 Bournemouth win on this one, with Solanke and, oh my God, Kilkenny for the second goal.
Paul?
Sorry, I'm just reeling still from that wonderful joke that Mr. Woodmansey dropped. I'll go for a 1 each. each.
One apiece. Scorers?
Carvalho to continue his hot streak.
Bournemouth?
Who scored their goals? I'll go for David Brooks.
Okay. And the man wearing the Nottingham Forest shirt, what is it you say, sir?
Pessimistic as ever, I've gone 2-0 to Bournemouth.
I see what's happening here. You're going with the Paul Williams classic, bet against your own team. That way, either you're happy because you won some money, or you're happy because your team won. I like it.
No, or option 3, I watched them on Sunday and they were shit, so...
Oh, that's right, yeah, sorry.
That's where it comes from.
I don't think they were shit. I think they were in perfect control of that game, and then they just lost concentration.
Apart from the goal, how much of a goal threat did you think they were?
Forest going forward.
Yeah.
I must admit, other than the goal, I can't remember him launching many attacks.
Exactly, and that's the problem. There's just, unless Grabban comes back soon, and it's already. I think he missed the Coventry match because of COVID. I think he was isolating. I don't think he's got it, but it's not a good start to the season that he's not playing already. And I just don't think Taylor's a single figures goal a season striker if you're lucky. And they just I don't know, once they'd scored the goal, you're like, right. When they scored the goal, I thought, here we go, we could probably give this team a bit of a kick in because they didn't look great. And then they proceeded to sit back and invite pressure from after the half time. Straight after half time. I mean, they only looked like one team who was going to win it after once the second half started. But yeah.
Who's scoring them their goals?
Solanke. And of course I've presented myself with an opportunity to butcher somebody's name. Macondes.
Well, look at it this way. If you haven't butchered it, I've definitely butchered it when I've written it down. So hey, we've covered it. We've covered all the bases.
He might be listed as Emiliano if he does score. So,
that'll be good to look out for then.
Keep everyone on their toes.
100%.
So, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water and stop predicting football games, 3 more games coming down the pipe. Not down the pipe, don't say that. Hull City are taking on Derby County. For that outburst, you will pick first, Mr. Williams.
Fine. No problem for me. Uh, 1-0 Hull, please.
1-0 Hull. Goal scorer.
Well, he's a wizard, isn't he? Old Keane Lewis Potter.
Lewis Potter. Matt.
I've gone a bit more kind of optimistic. I've gone 3-0 Hull.
Look at it.
Wishful thinking. You're going to see this every time Derby come up. They're like, right, yeah, we're going to stuff it, lads.
Goal scorers.
McGuinness, just to make sure I get me practicing saying that over and over again.
Yes.
McGuinness 1 and Wilkes 2.
Like that. A 1-0 from Paul, a 3-0 from Matt. No surprises. 2-0 from me, Lewis Potter and Wilkes. Go on, Stu, tell us how it is.
Well, I'm happy to say that I agree with Matt. I have also gone for a 3-0 Hull win.
Good lad.
I'm not going to finish you with a wizard-based joke like Mr. Williams, but I will deliver the Keane Lewis Potter as 1. I will deliver McGuinness as 2, and Mr. Malik Wilkes as the 3rd goal scorer. Probably unlikely to get actually 3 different goal scorers, but as proved by the predictions last week, I need to play for some points, so let's head some bets here. So there we are.
You do right. We've got. I don't know how to say it without making it rude, but before recording, it was pointed out by Stu that there's a situation this season again where one team plays a team, then another team plays a team. I won't repeat how it was put across, but Middlesbrough are taking on QPR. Tell you what, I'll tell you which players I've picked that aren't apparently playing, and we'll take it from there. I won 2-0 for the Borough, Tavernier, and now Watmore.
Had you gone for Andy Obertus going back-to-back games? You are a mentalist.
Predict him once and then never predict him again for
Like I said, I just like saying the name. Matt.
I have gone 2-1 for Borough.
Like it.
I'm obviously very optimistic about this one. Watmore scoring. And trying to keep my pronunciation on point. Ikpietze for Borough, and then Dykes for QPR.
Stu.
I've gone for a simple 1-0 home win. So Middlesbrough 1, QPR 0, with his full Sunday name of Patrick McNair to score.
Paul?
I'm not as confident as anyone on this one. I will go for a 1-1 draw.
Scorers?
There will be a first of the season for Uche. Big Uche Ikpiatsu. I'm just going to check to see if he's still there, but I believe that QPR have got a player called Elias Chair. I'll just check to make sure he's still there.
Literally on the edge of our seats whilst you check on the chair.
It's the content that everyone's come here for.
I love it.
Lineups. If he is there, he ain't in the squad. In that case, I will go for Moses Odubadjo.
Gesundheit. Can you tell me who your goal scorer is, though?
I can't believe I ain't picking to score in the QPR Hull game. I know the rules.
What?
Disgrace.
What's his name?
Odubadjo.
Odd.
Just put Moses if you want.
Odubadjo. Okay.
Yep, that'll do.
So, our final game to predict for the week is the Man in Red's team, Nottingham Forest versus Blackburn Rovers. Stu, what you got for me?
Another confident home win. However, I do have the away team to score. So Nottingham Forest 2, Blackburn Rovers 1. I've gone with a former podcast favourite of Lolly to score and a Mr. Yates to score their second. The Blackburn goal scorer would be probably no relation to the man himself, but the only Hull link I could pull from their squad of Dolan to score.
Okay, Paul?
I was having a conversation today, actually, about Blackburn, and in the fact that they've sold Adam Armstrong to Southampton, to me means they are woefully short of goals, unless obviously huge Chilean superstar Ben Brereton Diaz can step up to the plate. He did used to play for Forest, so the rule would be in play. However, I have gone for Forest to sneak this 1-1-0.
1-0 to Forest. Goal scorer?
Please. I can't bring myself to pick up the shithouse Yates to get a goal, so here we go. He'll be a collector's item for you. Jack Colback.
God, you want no points.
No idea how, but it could just hit his arse after he's just stood in the penalty area and going.
Ginger brethren, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, whatever, Stu.
I've gone with a 1-0 win for the Forest boys. Taylor to score. Matt.
Thank you all for all of your positivity. I've gone 2-0 to Blackburn.
Blackburn are so bad. They just got knocked out by Morecambe.
Oh, what was the team that they put out? I think this is the thing we've got to look at. Like Forest won tonight.
Fairly strong, from what I understand.
Nine of those players who played for Forest tonight against Bradford aren't going to play at the weekend. But yeah, I've gone 0-2 to Blackburn, and I've gone Brereton Diaz double.
Brereton Diaz. Have you ever heard such nonsense?
Unless Forest sign like 3 players in the next 2 days that go straight into the squad and look absolutely awesome, I'm not confident.
Well, gentlemen, what that does is that finishes out the predictions. 6 games predicted. 6 possible chances for big money points. What it also does is it brings us to a situation where that's everything we've got, unless there's any other business. Stuart, any other business?
Nothing from me.
Matt, any other business?
I think we kind of touched upon it last week, where we weren't quite sure what Michael Dawson was gonna do. We weren't sure if he was going to retire or if he was going to find another club. He announced his retirement during the week, ironically, probably a day or two after we'd kind of done the podcast. And I just think, he played for Hull. I think he was captain at Hull.
He was.
He played for Forest twice. He kind of had 2 stints at Forest. He also brought us a shit ton of money in because we had a nice sell-on clause in his thing when he left Tottenham for Hull, wasn't it, I think. And being from North Allerton, he's kind of got a link to kind of Middlesbrough and stuff like that. So, he's had a decent career. Probably by his own admission, not fulfilled it fully because with injuries and stuff like that, he probably could have played for England a few more times. He probably could have played at a higher level for a longer time. But he's kind of moving into broadcasting. I think he's going to be doing something with women's football or a show that's on Sky, I think. But yeah, I think a decent player who's kind of had something to do with kind of a few of the clubs that we support. So yeah.
Paul, anything from you?
Nothing major, I suppose. Like the end of last week's podcast, I gave a shout out to obviously Pools being back in the Football League. And happy to report they opened with a win.
Saw that.
Last
It was
week against Crawley.
On the same page.
So they managed to bag themselves a 1-0 opening year win against Crawley. So fingers crossed they can keep the momentum going. They're away at Barrow this coming Saturday. So fingers crossed they'll be able to keep the momentum going.
Indeed. It'll come as no surprise to anybody that I don't have anything else to report. So, obviously, currently named the Football Podcast cannot continue like this. It is silly. So, I'll go back through the messages and check what Matt's offering was. I'll throw mine out. I'll throw it all up on the Twitter, and when I get a landslide victory, this podcast will absolutely be known as Tiger Woods Golf.
So next week, if you throw it out to the public, next week this is going to be blatantly hello and welcome to Football McFootball Face, because that's just the way of the world. So
it'll will officially be called the Football Podcast.
It'll be that situation where he'll put in like a 3 and then an other list name in comments, and someone will comment and say something that's incredibly inappropriate / offensive, and that'll end up getting all the votes.
Indeed. So tune in next time to find out what this joyous podcast is going to be called. If you yourself have a suggestion, take to the skies, and the skies obviously being social media. Twitter is probably the best one. Hit us up on the cookiecast.pod. Drop us an email, even comment on the YouTube video, or drop us a comment on the audio. If you fancy to be in with a chance of winning some lovely prizes, or even a little bit of the moolah, because we'd have to pay for the name, I guess. Drop us a line and let us know what you think we should call this podcast. And until next week, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. I want to thank you for putting your information out into the world. Contact information, that is. It's on the website. Paul's home address, mostly. And until next week, I'll see you gents then. Bye!
Recording stop.
So there you go, what do you think to that? Like I was saying at the end, there are prizes to be won if you are picked as the person who named our football podcast. So get all over that. You can do that while you're in the process of subscribing to the podcast by dropping a comment wherever you're getting your podcasts, or drop us an email. Jump over to cookiecast.com to get all of our contact details. And let us know what's going on and what you think the name of the podcast should be. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.